um, town hall for Kamaal Martin's mayoral run in Lemon Grove. We're super excited about tonight. The election is coming on Tuesday, so keep spreading the word. And tonight we have with us somebody who's been with us almost every week too, but Tina is here tonight. We're going to talk about placemaking, what that means, what it means for our city, and what we can do. So thank you all for being here. Again, I'm going to just turn this over to Kamaal, and if we are a small group tonight, that's fine. We're just going to record the whole thing and post it for everybody to watch in the run-up to Election Day. So stop talking. You all know me, and I'm going to hand it over to the guy we're all going to vote for next week.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Good evening, everybody. To the regular attendees, if there's somebody who's on who this is their first time, welcome. I would ask all of you, the regulars, as this is going to be our last session together before Election Day, and then we transition into who knows what comes after that. Take an opportunity, share like the link out to this piece through your own social media networks and channels. Let's do what we can to try and get as much information out to as many people as possible. And to all of you who've been attending these, going all the way back to like August or July, whenever we started, I really, really appreciate all of your support and all of your interest. The final topic for today, placemaking, and another word that I recently heard that's used alongside or in place of placemaking, placekeeping, all right? The building of community around public spaces, focus on the activity in a community. How do we leverage already existing assets? How do we turn the place that we already live into the place that we really want to be? Instead of having to leave our community to go to other places, how do we create the type of community that can bring people to us, essentially? How do we start to bring outside residents, people who don't live in Lemon Grove, to our city? What can we give them? What can we provide for them? But more importantly, how can we create something for the people who live in Lemon Grove to get out of their house, to feel good, to recreate, to socialize? Spaces that are focused on people and human activity as opposed to being car-centric. As you can imagine, I've been doing a lot of walking over the past couple of months. And one of the things that, I don't want to say surprised me, but just something that's really kind of hit me different is the extent to which there's concrete everywhere in Lemon Grove. And that with the few parks and schools that we do have, if you look at an aerial view of the entire city of Lemon Grove just on a Google map, I think you would be shocked at how little green space there actually is. And for us to have an opportunity to kind of reclaim our streets, which are the most valuable public asset that we do have, it's going to take a shift in our thinking, a shift in behavior, but also a shift in kind of our consciousness and the way we conceive of the spaces themselves around what we think is possible or what we think isn't possible. So with that, one of the things that it's been really great to discover in the conversations we've been having is that there's so many experts and really, really brilliant people in this town who already have done or are doing lots of the things that we already need. And many of you may recognize and know Alicia Martinez. Alicia used to work with New City America, which is the organization that's responsible for the creation of Little Italy, its maintenance, its the maintenance of the district, its improvement functions, and all these other pieces. And she's really a wealth of knowledge about the type of activity that I and many of us would like to see here. And Alicia's prepared some materials and stuff to help kind of walk us through a conversation. So with that, Alicia, I'll pass it to you, and just kind of keeping in form and format with how we've proceeded before. We want to have an organic and a natural conversation. So as we're kind of going through these slides together, even though she is an educator and a teacher, don't think she's just talking at us. Let's feel free to ask her questions. And if we want to pause on something and, get a little deeper, let's all know that we have the freedom to do that. Alicia,
I think
floor is yours.
I want to go ahead and just shoot me a message in the chat. You can shoot all the hosts a message. And then we can go with the unmute option, I think would be the easiest. So yeah, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Alicia Martinez, and by no means am I an expert in anything. I'm just here to bring some of the experience that I've had and some of, just some of the ideas that I've had being a resident in Lemon Grove. I've been in Lemon Grove for about 10 years now, but have grown up in San Diego around different parts of the city. And, I've just noticed how our city as a whole, I mean, not just Lemon Grove, but San Diego County as a whole has, especially in the urban areas, has undergone a huge revitalization in many areas, in particular like Hillcrest, North Park, South Park, La Mesa, El Cajon. And it seems like we're going through all these changes. So there's no reason for Lemon Grove not to start going through these changes. So I prepared a small slide deck just to give you some of my, some of what our vision is, along with what Kamaal's vision is, and I'm sure some other, members that are joining us tonight. So let's just all brainstorm together and collaborate and see what will drive us forward. I've got, let me present here. Hold on a second. Whoops. I think I have to go back. You guys can't see anything yet, right?
Nope.
Just a second.
While Alicia is doing that, I wanted to bring your attention to a link that I threw up in the chat. It's a short article from the Project for Public Spaces, and it breaks down kind of 11 principles for creating great community places. I'm definitely not going to read the whole article to you, but maybe I'll just give you a couple of the headlines while she's bringing up that presentation. The first piece is the idea that the community is the expert, right? And that a great starting point for any public space and something vital for the value of something to last is, community input and understanding what people need and what people want. For those of you who've been around for a while, you may remember some of the work that Francesca and some of her colleagues at the New School of Architecture did, trying to breathe some life into the Promenade Park, maybe last year or the year before sometime. And there was a community input process that, went along with that. And there were some great things that happened, but it takes time for things to sustain themselves and kind of grow. And I couldn't tell you what the reasons were for the project not continuing longer, beyond some of the resources and the funding pieces. But one of the other principles in the 11 that the Project for Public Spaces laid out is that it's never really about the money, right? Like, money is always something you need, it's always something you want. But when something's valuable enough, there's always a way to find what you need. And a lot of the things that we're looking for are already here. So I'll pause and pass it back to you.
All right, so are we good to go? Everyone can see my screen? All right, cool. We're gonna just talk about placemaking and branding. I just kind of tried to go with our Lemon Grove theme here to make the background more visually stimulating. So it's not the best, but it'll do. Now why, oh, there we go, okay. So basically what defines us as a community are Lemon Grove. I know when I drive through Lemon Grove, whether it's through our business district, our downtown, or residential streets, like, what thoughts, as you, as residents, as tax contributors, as business supporters, what do you have? Like, what's missing? What do we want to see? In comparison to, like I said, what other cities, business districts, and communities have, what do they have that we don't? So that would be my first question to all of you, just to start brainstorming and just to see what you guys, what do you see when you drive through Lemon Grove?
And I've given everyone the power to unmute themselves. So if you guys want to jump in, there's a small enough group I think we can manage ourselves. Please feel free to jump in.
Anybody? No one?
I feel like we're missing the quaintness that La Mesa has. Some of the restaurants are great, but you don't know that. They're in shoddy buildings that don't look enticing whatsoever. We're missing live music. We're missing bars that don't feel like meth dens. We're missing like, you know what I mean? Like we're missing a community.
Yeah.
Events. You know, there's a lot we're missing. And Kamal's right. We got too much concrete.
Yeah. That is like that is not top off the top. Then the number one thing that is, I think it prevents us from becoming that walkable community, which makes us want to go and hang out in our our downtown area and participate in, if we can have concerts or live music or events. It's not, it's not pleasant right now. So I don't, feel free anybody to jump in, but let's keep going. So why placemaking and like rebranding Lemon Grove? Well, number one, it's to compete more effectively for investments from businesses and other levels of government. So if we can start bringing business to our business owners from visitors outside of Lemon Grove, as well as our current residents, then our business owners will be more willing, I think, to contribute to these efforts, which means they'll have the desire to beautify their buildings outside, and clean up their space and just make it more visually stimulating for the community, and take more pride in the upkeep. I feel like everyone just is like in a rut. There's no pride in the upkeep of our businesses. And then figuring out ways to get other stakeholders invested in our community. So again, one thing that's huge in Little Italy, which I by far don't recommend happening here in Lemon Grove, but there's a huge restaurant owner group, and they own about 6 restaurants in Little Italy. They started out and just it took off. So I don't, by no means do I want that to happen. But it's once people realize that the potential, they come in and they start, taking over these communities. We also want to recruit talent and job creating organizations to our area, attract customers and visitors and other residents, encourage innovative and sustainable development that supports the city's long-term vision, promote Lemon Grove's downtown as a dynamic place to work, to live, work, and learn, and then enhance our city's reputation as a great place to live and work. Right now, I don't think we have a positive reputation. So I think that we really need to start turning that around, and hopefully.
Can I ask a question? This is Jim. I'm just
Hey, Jim.
would define the city's long-term vision.
You want to repeat that, Jim? I think you got cut off a little bit.
I was just asking, what is our city's long-term vision? I mean, what do we think of when we think of that phrase, long-term vision?
Jim, I'm not sure if that's a rhetorical question. I would argue that residents may have a long-term vision of what they'd like to see, but I don't think we've seen a compelling long-term vision for the future from our current elected officials and people in power. And
exactly, I agree.
That's exactly what I talk about with the idea of turning Lemon Grove into the cleanest and greenest city in San Diego County. I think we have the opportunity to use, green space, health and wellness, and activity that kind of builds on, those intersections as the driver of, propelling us forward. We had this rich agricultural history, and I think it's something worth capitalizing on and leveraging as part of a platform to talk about ourselves to everybody else around us. When we have so little green space already, and yet the name of our town is Lemon Grove, but Chula Vista has a lemon festival, and the only lemon grove that I really can find are the 8 lemon trees that are over at the Heritage Park now, or now called Treganza Park. It's low-key tragic, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. Again, we're less than 4 square miles. We could do a lot here to take those components of our past and use them, as a springboard into the future. So I haven't really seen or heard much of anything that resembles a vision from people in power. I think a lot of the conversation has been focused on survival, which I understand.
Yes.
At the same time, I think you have to look beyond simply surviving. And it's almost like, not to get like too woo-woo and hokey, but if that's what you focus on, that's what you're going to end up like bringing to life. You're going to end up bringing to life like the struggles and the lack and all the problems. But if we focus on the assets that we have, I think it's something that would unite people and something that people could get behind. Generally speaking, I think people in Lemon Grove are like really friendly and want to get along and like just want to hang out and be left alone and, you know, do the good things that they want to do on their own time. And the extent to which we can get people to buy into something that's bigger than any one person and bigger than all of us, I think like that's where our success actually lies. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's kind of the thought that I had around the question that you posed.
Yeah, I think, you're right. I think the emphasis is so much on survival, and that we need to do something to change these gears from, to a paradigm shift from survival to, thriving, or whatever the word would be. But yeah, I mean, ever since this realignment and all the focus on going into bankruptcy and maybe, losing our status as a city, it just really complicates things. And I think people need to have hope given them. And, right now the leadership just isn't providing that. So, yeah, so hopefully that'll change starting next Tuesday.
I have a question. Tim's here, which is awesome. Tim and I are both pretty active in kind of some social media circles. And Tim, I have to hand it to you. You're a much calmer person when it comes to certain people in those circles than I am. But we're also both instructors and we're also both artists. And I'm curious to hear Tim's thoughts on this, but also Seth and Alicia too. A lot of these cities that have kind of created these beautiful places to be, like Little Italy, like La Mesa, they seem to be anchored by certain businesses. Like Little Italy seems to have like one anchor at one end of Ballast Point, and then it kind of filters down. But then there's like another mid anchor in the two restaurants that are stacked on top of each other. La Mesa's got the Cone restaurant and the now defunct restaurant group that owns the pizza place. But there's still these anchors. Johnny B's is like the old anchor with Cone, the new anchor. What do you all want to or see anchoring us? John's Fish and Chips is fantastic, but it's not a business anchor. And Seth, you're on the planning commission. I mean, I'd really like to know what you guys see anchoring this, because Home Depot can't be it. That's, closes 8.
And no more fast food.
No more fast food, man. No more. I can't even deal with the Popeyes. No more fast food. That is not anchoring anything. That's drive-by stuff.
San Diego County, or just Southern California, we're all foodies. At least I am. I love food. Yeah. So, being able, for me, like, I hate having to, ask my kids, what do you want for dinner? And I'm like, somewhere close. They're like, no, Mom, let's go out somewhere else. I hate to do that. Like, I want to be able to walk down the street and go to a restaurant that we actually enjoy. Not to say that we don't have any good, we have some good food spots here in Lemon Grove, but, there's so many wonderful, chefs out there in the world. Just like, we need to approach, I think we need to approach people and say, hey, come to Lemon Grove. It's just having those conversations and reaching out to the types of businesses that we want,
Like, I know the Cones are everywhere and they have their problems, but they also have many successes. Do we just reach out and say, hey, we need an anchor restaurant? Come sit down with it. You know what I mean? Like, is that how that works? I don't even know how that works.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's just, or there are a lot of I guess food group, like Consortium Holdings, our salon owner, he owns Craft and Commerce and Ironside, and he's literally taking over San Diego. He just bought a spot in off of Adams, and so now he's moving to that area. Well, he already has Polite Provisions, but so it's just, but I feel like we don't want to, I think we need to expand on that and reach out. There are other restaurateurs that want to, go into communities like ours. So it's just a matter of just having a conversation.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'll keep going. So we've got let's talk about what inspires us here. I've just threw some slides of like what other places are doing. So again, back to Little Italy, and the reason why I keep referencing it because I worked there, so for a couple years, no longer. But so back in like 1996, I don't know if you guys remember what Little Italy looked like prior to around the night, like in the 90s. I'm sure some of you do, but it definitely isn't what it is now. And they've gone from just like a rundown community to becoming like one of the the public benefit corporation that is generating revenue. They're creating jobs from this. They're able to host events. They're bringing in new developments. I mean, if you guys have been down there, there's the new piazza with the fountain. It's just a really cool place. And they're able to, I think they raised over like 3 million this last fiscal year. And they do that by, creating these maintenance assessment districts, which I definitely think that's something that Lemon Grove can do. And that, helps keep the sidewalks clean and empties the trash cans and does beautification. They're maintaining the public rights of way. It's creating jobs. They've got the parking district. As you know, they've eliminated all the parking pretty much. It's not a good thing, but they make you pay now. So they have a valet crew that generates revenue. And then also there's the business improvement district. So all of these sources are generating revenue, and they're able to do these things like on the picture on the right, you see those hanging baskets. Those are all, done, provided and created by the Little Italy Association. The Italian flags that fly, all the beautiful potted plants, the fall and like holiday displays. You see the pumpkins standing onto the left. So those are all things that are done by creating these improvement districts. Not only, and the huge thing, the biggest conflict is property owners. They're like, oh, we have, something that's voted on, and it's, they're essentially paying for it. It's a very minimal amount, worth it, because it makes your property value go up. So these are the things that just people need to be educated on, because, I foresee like Lemon Grove being a place that and like an urban, we're close to downtown, we're close to the beach, we're in a prime location, and most of our lots are huge in Lemon Grove. So where else can you go like outside of Lemon Grove and have as much like property and land? It's not common here. So I think that once people catch on to that, people are just gonna want to start, coming our way. And I think we need to be ready for that. So yeah, so Little Italy as a cool spot. This is the piazza. I think that we need to start turning our empty concrete spaces, and, we need to liven them up. So of course we need to like have a reason for that. We don't want to just like put out tables and chairs for nothing, but you're able to actually, I don't know if you guys have been there, you're actually able to consume alcohol like outside here on this public space within this whole patio. So so I think that that's pretty cool. I know we have like and I'm sure we can't get an alcohol permit for this, but like, it would be cool to have our public seating space where it's completely underutilized. And I can show you later by the MTS station. There's just like concrete. It's a cool little patio, outdoor space there, but it's kind of central, that connects like our downtown area, the trolley station, and that main core intersection. So, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to liven up Lemon Grove.
Elisa, if you could, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. As you put up the last slide about the piazza in Little Italy, it made me think a lot about our downtown area and a lot of the conversations I've been having specifically with business owners or, just other residents around COVID and how it's impacted specifically all of the, public facing businesses and industries, within the community, but how the food and beverage industry has really just been pummeled and what that looks like. And I'm sure we all saw downtown San Diego and how they were able to adapt in bringing outdoor seating and blocking off streets and the benefits that created. Another really interesting piece, if you take a hard look at the downtown village, the space that's in between the Totomoda building and Miss Donuts, while some of that parking is, I think important, there are some residential spaces there. There's like a lot of parking in downtown Lemon Grove. And I would say there's probably way more than we need when we think about the actual businesses that are located there. And then let's kind of take one, let's walk 30 yards across the street, across the Golden Avenue, where we have this huge educational complex that's completely hidden from view, right? From public view, with the elementary school, the rec center, Lemon Grove Academy, the library. It's actually like the largest green space in all of Lemon Grove that's uninterrupted, that area right there. And again, if you don't know what you're looking for and you don't know what's there, you'll completely miss it, right? But it's actually like in our downtown. How many cities in San Diego that you could think of have a police station, a fire station, a skate park, a school, a library, like in their downtown? That's something that's huge, and it could be a draw. And I understand, specifically in the United States of America, access to schools is a sticky issue because people in this country shoot up schools in ways that don't happen in other places. So that's something to protect and guard. At the same time, the extent to which that space remains like not visible, difficult to utilize. I know the city has had joint use agreements in the past with the school district. And, COVID has definitely thrown an additional wrench into that. But I would like to think that, even in the era we find ourselves now, as we're hopefully moving into more permissive public health tiers vis-a-vis the county public health office, that there could be opportunities to like tear down some of those walls and some of those fences and create opportunities for the public to actually use those spaces, because we're all already paying for them. Like whether you have kids in the school district or not, our tax dollars are going to the school district. And when I talk about the need for like increased levels of partnership between city officials in the city of Lemon Grove, as well as elected officials within the school district, that's part of what I'm talking about. And it's not like taking anything away. A lot of the decisions and discussions that I've come across usually fall down to two things. It's who's going to clean it up and who's going to like pay for the insurance, who's going to be liable. And if those are like the biggest things we have to consider, then those aren't real problems at all, because those are really easy to work your way around. And it boils down, in my opinion, to more of an issue of will and like a willingness to see something in a fashion that's different from other people. And again, like, some people talk about the rec center being closed, and that's partially correct, but not entirely accurate. It's definitely underutilized, right? And not as accessible as it should be. And similarly, even more so now with so many kids who are doing like Zoom school, kids and adults like need green space and a public, area where they can go and run around and burn off energy. And, I bet you dollars to donuts, if we opened that park on the backside, and you can really only see it if you're driving down Kemp as it turns into Skyline. That's really the only place that it's, immediately visible. There would be scores of Lemon Grove residents who'd be walking their laps or shooting some hoops or playing tennis or whatever the heck they're doing. And I think there's a way to do it that's respectful of people's health needs and whatever like the lowest common denominator of COVID practice is, because there are always going to be people who are like, oh, I don't want to wear a mask. And like, let's not even go there. Like, if you're going to come here, there are going to be certain guidelines. But why can't we create a space that there's enough space where if we limit the amount of people that are coming in and we really like kick open the whole thing, where you can get out there and not have to worry about a mask because there's nobody within like 30, 40, 50 feet away from you. I don't imagine like 1,000 people are going to like swarm upon the park all at once. But the extent to which we can begin to open up and create like a greater degree of connectivity to the downtown strip to let people know that like this beautiful green space exists and it's 50 yards away from you. And similarly with the Heritage Park across the street on the trolley stop, what are other ways to kind of let people know that, this is all part of one contiguous place, so to speak, that could be used. And I don't know how we're going to get this done without the school district, right? Like the more I think about it, the more I see the school district as playing perhaps like the most important role in all of these discussions. And with that huge playground that they have in the back, the elementary school has a playground too. Maybe there's some other use that we can do with that. I was talking to a woman who is a landscape architect and a practitioner in this space as well. And she's the one who shared the term place keeping with me. And that was something that I'd never heard before. Not to be so different from placemaking, but I suppose the idea that, there already is a sense of place and how do we maintain that and add to it? And it's not necessarily always starting from scratch, which I think is interesting. Also the opportunity for additional outdoor seating in Lemon Grove that as a response to COVID, I think could be a huge positive. But also, we don't know what the future is going to hold. What happens when there's COVID version 2.0 or the new thing after COVID a year and a half or 2 years from now? What can we do to position like our businesses, but also kind of our social life and interactions around outdoor public space so it's as safe as possible, as accessible as possible, but also starts to eat up like those huge blocks of concrete, that now that the dollar store is out of business, that $5 store is out of business, that Union Bank has massive parking lot, like that whole complex there. It's like, Qualcomm Stadium with all the concrete over there in that place. Like it's really, really massive. I saw something about a question in the chat. I'll stop.
Yeah, just real quick on this topic, Tim and I were kind of having a little side chat about a venue he played at up in Oregon, and we have something like this in North Park, but he had said that there's a place he played up in Bend, Oregon, that was doing kind of all ages and 21 and up shows. It was a not-for-profit. They sold baked goods, and then for 21 and up shows, they sold beer and wine, had a midnight curfew, so the city didn't really get into the 2 a.m. argument about that kind of thing. But and so we kind of furthered the conversation, and I brought up Queen Bee's down in North Park, right, which is this great community space. And I was really hoping we'd end up with something like that at Amplified Aleworks when they were going to get into the bakery, right, where we could have family nights and live music. But you keep coming back to the community center, and there are these, the community center could be an anchor and a tie-in between us and the city of San Diego, the rest of Southeast San Diego, where these events, like Tim was talking about, like young punk shows and young hip hop shows, and there's a lot of kids who have a lot of energy to spend, in a place like that. And these are places that also bring parents together because they come see their kids perform, doing live theater there. You've talked in the past about partnerships with Grossmont College, but we come up with an idea for a venue like this that is a community gathering space. All of a sudden you've got City College in the mix because we're kind of right in between both, actually, right? You've got two incredible music and theater departments, right? I don't know. There's just something about that anchor to bring community. You take that and then we add to it all the green space you're talking about, and I'm puzzled why this community has not been able to do that. I really am. That was the conversation we were having, and Queen Bee's is a pretty special place if you go there on the right night. There's no reason we couldn't have that in this city.
Agreed. And while we're talking about spaces that are potential anchors, while this isn't Lemon Grove specifically, that used to be a charter school, used to be a boys and girls club, kind of other space that's on the corner of Imperial and like Hamishaw. I haven't been in there in ages, but I was talking to someone just a couple of weeks ago who said, well, there are a couple of nonprofits who operate out of that space, like Heartbeat Music Academy, a couple of other groups. But they're also allegedly, can't confirm this, there are co-working spaces in that building now that are going to either become available or soon become available for other people to use. And, depending on where you live in Lemon Grove, that could be a really convenient location. And it's also connected to Marie Weidman Park, which is, city of San Diego. And I actually do like a lot of like, I don't exercise frequently in the morning. So I'm not going to say like I do my morning exercise there. That wouldn't be true. But on the rare occasions I do things in the morning that resemble exercise, that's one of the places I go to because I know no one's ever going to be there. And like, I can do whatever like weird movements I want to do without any fear of judgment or, censure. But like that park has another challenge that a lot of other parks have, not just in Lemon Grove and San Diego, but the only or majority of the people who are at that park are usually people who are on kind of the fringes of society in some way, people who are transient, people where, they go to the park to use, and it doesn't make it a great place to bring your kid and your family when somebody's smoking crack on the park bench. But part of how you stop somebody from smoking crack on the park bench is also by like bringing your family to the park or making the case that, it's like broken window theory stuff, right? Like the worse off it stays, the easier it is for more people to go there and do squishy things. But the more you can empower people to feel good about using that space, the harder it's going to be for folks to use it who don't want to do things in the light that are typically done in the dark.
I put something up for you from Tim too.
Let me take a look. Tim, I'm talking about public murals, like a mural district, somewhere between that back parking lot and downtown, the north side, hosting a public outdoor market there. Like that's exactly part of what we could be doing and should be doing, right? And like, again, the connection between art, culture, the idea of place, how you bring people to an area, how you make people feel like their input was a part of what happened there. And also the kind of, one of the pieces that I learned from the Project for Public Places or Spaces is the idea of kind of lighter, quicker, and cheaper, right? What are the things that you can do with a quicker kind of speed to implementation, less of a heavy lift, and aren't going to cost you a buttload of money? And also recognizing that, yeah, things cost money, but you don't have to do everything at once. But also that like the work is never done, right? Like you're never like, oh, like now we're finished. Like you might be finished with that project, but everything's going to involve, and require maintenance and upkeep. And you may not hit the nail on the head the first go round, and you might need to continue to iterate the process of design and improve upon it to make it what people want. And there are always going to be people who are kind of chomping at the bit to get out and who are going to show up, the first to show up at the farmer's market, the first to show up at the this. And there are going to be some other people who are a bit more apprehensive, who are kind of watching, who are like, let me see. Let me watch and see, and let me wait a while. And it'll take a while for them to come around. And part of how you keep those people there is, when they do have feedback, finding ways to incorporate it, especially when it's valid, because it typically is. And one of the most significant pieces that I've heard and, really observed in, walking, I don't want to say I've walked every street of Lemon Grove, but I've come pretty close to it at this point. There are probably still some cul-de-sacs that I haven't set foot in, but I've been just about everywhere. The need for like ADA compliant mobility throughout our city is really huge, right? And we're not unique in that problem. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. We're talking about, some of the gravel that people put up. And I know some residents have like borne the expense on their own of like putting some gravel and stuff up to at least create some type of place that felt something like a sidewalk and provided a little bit of safety and protection for kids walking to the park or, families walking to the park. But if you're, in a wheelchair or, on crutches in a boot, like that's just really not going to work. And like definitely less than half of Lemon Grove is like properly sidewalked. And I would say it's probably somewhere between like a third and half of Lemon Grove. And also, again, depending on where you are, like it's legit like pitch black like a horror flick in Lemon Grove in like a lot of parts of this town, especially kind of the central part. And along the main thoroughfares, it's much more well lit. You'll see better sidewalks. But if you're in the interior of the community, you and your granny just simply might not be able to like walk 500 feet around the corner to a pocket park if there was one, because it's too dark or like she can't make it across the, you know, the broken roads, or, you know, lack of some proper, you know, thoroughfare for access. So those are a number of pieces that, you know, I think about that all kind of come together. But the opportunity again to use art and all of these huge walls and stuff that we have, and if we have all this concrete, well, maybe we don't jackhammer it immediately, right? But what other activities can we bring there to start to cordon them off and put up some seating, to have a weekly market, to have a little Lemon Grove flea market or something, to create some community building and continuity, right? And the whole kind of small is beautiful approach. I think we should start with things that are small and, you know, work our way up, as opposed to trying to blast off with something massive that like, oh, wow, like that was huge and that was great, but like now everybody's exhausted and the resources are depleted. How can we start with something small that we can replicate, build some culture and community around, and just kind of continue to build from there? Thanks for letting me interrupt the slides, Alicia.
No, 100% agree. I was actually thinking as you were saying that, you know, we talk about that park being underutilized, and I was just thinking like I miss going up to my sister. She lives in, and my mom live in South Pasadena, and they have their concert in their park in the parks, like, you know, in the summer every Sunday, and we would pack a picnic and beverages, and it was so much fun, and the music was great, and it was like free, you know, but it drew the community and brought them together. And I think that's like where we would have to start. You know, the community is so, you know, dismantled and separated right now. Like I haven't experienced like the true community yet. So hopefully that's something we can get to in the coming future. But anyway, so, you know, I was just in La Mesa not too long ago, and it, you know, just, it's nice to see where they're going and the changes that they're making. But I put this picture in particular because you can see the trees, right? So I love tree-lined streets and trees that actually have a canopy. I think it brings extreme value to communities. So going back to like landscaping and beautification, and also green space, I think that that's an important component to a community, and not palm trees. But that's my personal preference. Let's see here. And then also, like you were saying, bringing back events. Like right now, I don't think we have anything like a weekly, like farmers market, car shows, like anything that can just, what's going to make people like come to Lemon Grove. So just thinking in terms of, you know, events and utilizing the space that we have. And then also, I always like to look for inspiration. So, and this is what I did a lot for the Little Italy Association and New City America, is just constantly seeing what else is out there and what other people are doing. So I thought that this one was pretty cool. This was in Kirkland, Parkland. This is in Washington. But as you can see, like, and we'll go to a slide after this that just shows, you know, but look what they do with their streets. It's just like there's green space, it's activated, there's lighting, people are outside dining, and, you know, why can't we do this? So this is just, you know, they have the bollards there that you know, that have this separation, and it adds additional lighting. So I just think that our downtown, we could eventually get there. So that was one thing. And then also adding in these pop outs here, I think on our main drag of Lemon Grove Avenue and Broadway would be an ideal place to eventually get there. Of course, this all takes money, but, you know, making this a focal point and then kind of shutting down and eliminating all these parking spaces and turning that into walkable space, outdoor dining, because we all know that there's plenty of parking in the rear of the buildings, or people would just walk. So this is all what I envision. I know that I'm hoping that, you know, everyone else shares a common interest. So like, you know, just going into the future of Lemon Grove and what our priorities might be. Of course, it's, you know, to have those clean and safe streets, bring in the new businesses, walkable community, public art. We do have some great murals, but I also think that we're not maintaining them. We have one of the most beautiful murals that goes under the 94 freeway, but it's filthy. There's no lighting, and it's not being taken care of. And I think that that's, being myself like an art major, it just saddens me that, we have this beautiful mural, but it's not being taken care of. Again, the public events, what can we do that won't cost money, that will bring people together to start out with? So those concerts, car shows, whatever it is that people have in mind. Additional land, like having key landmarks. This takes a while, but I think that like we have different portals of entry into and out of Lemon Grove. So like creating some type of theme. We have the huge lemon, right? That's like our main landmark. So playing off that and maybe having like other smaller lemon sculptures that are at the our four corners of like entry and exit of Lemon Grove, and having artists like recreate those in their own way. I don't know, like community centers, doing the landscape and beautification, lighting. We can, bringing in the LED lights so it just brightens things more. The outdoor public seating, new signage, and ensuring that like our graffiti is being removed. These are what I see as priorities. Kamaal, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Can I jump in real quick? Couple comments real quick before you do that, because everybody is talking right now in the chat to me about a lemon festival. Again, how Vista take over the lemon, like that name, like Jim said that, right? I come from Northern California. I'm from Sacramento, the Delta Asparagus Festival, the Garlic Festival in Gilroy, right? The Asparagus Festival in Stockton. And I lived in Chicago for almost a decade. I come from basically two states that are filled with trees. And if you've never been to Midtown in Sacramento, you are sleeping on one of the greatest little parts of this state. And I think about that a lot in terms of what these comments are. Why don't we have a lemon festival here? Everything can be made with lemon. Every cuisine uses, doesn't make sense. So I think about where I come from and where I've lived. The communities in Chicago are like these tiny little of come together in the summertime for stuff like this. So I just wanted to pop in because that's what's happening a little bit in the chat. Go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
Some of you may be familiar with the Resident Leadership Academy model. And it's kind of a piece that I don't know who invented it or originated it, but it's, kind of a participatory leadership development piece. And you kind of come in as a cohort. It consists of, residents in whatever community you happen to live in. And Lemon Grove is one of many communities throughout San Diego that operate one. And I went through it maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And they talk about, planning. They talk about the city budget. They talk about, kind of the nuts and bolts of how your city is run, where the money goes, who's responsible. And the primary purpose is to, prepare people to be better advocates for themselves and their community within the already existing kind of power and decision-making structures. It's also a great opportunity just to get to meet like your fellow Lemon Grove residents and, get to know people from like a different vantage point and perspective. But at the end of every cohort, and it's like a 6-month module that you go through and you meet weekly. So it's, it's pretty substantive. Each group has to do like a capstone project. And the group before us had done something with finding some dollars to put lights up, I think at the skate park, which was, I think, a great thing. The work that our cohort did is we did a survey around kind of some research and history into like the old time days parade that Lemon Grove used to have. And then like the Lemon Grove parade. And we never had like the Lemon Festival, but there used to be like this every year going back to, I think at least the 50s or the 40s, this kind of community pride type of thing. And it would happen over a series of days. And we asked about 400 people, in this collection process, is this something that you'd like to see brought back? And if it is it something that you'd like to be a part of in terms of planning or, organizing and support in some form or another? overwhelmingly, people were really interested in seeing something like that come back. Now, mind you, as this year began, what our intention was to bring something, not necessarily exactly what had existed in the past. We weren't interested in kind of recreating that thing, whatever it was, but our interest was in taking what did exist and borrowing from that, and marrying that to something new. Not that it would be like this multi-day or like week-long effort. And people were really excited about the idea of a parade and like making floats and all that other stuff. And that sounds like a lot. But then COVID came and kind of kicked all that stuff off its axis. But I do believe there's enough of a grassroots base where people would really want to not just participate in the event, like once you organize and coordinate it, but also participate in the planning and execution of the thing. One of the things that I'm also seeing in the chat, talking about, prioritizing areas of interest, physical areas, but also areas of intent, so that each thing kind of builds upon the other. And, the Lemon Festival, or whatever the heck you call it, could be a great way to activate those, underutilized areas, to gather input and have like little mini community builds and kind of bring those together. And I don't know if that's kind of what you were talking about, Brian, when you talked about, folks in Chicago and different communities. Lemon Grove, even though it's not a big place, depending on where you live, your experience in Lemon Grove can be very different from other experiences in Lemon Grove. If you happen to live close to a park, it's going to be real different than if you live like closer to Federal, with the hill going down on like San Miguel or Central or something like that over there. There's really no place for you to go. But if you're on the other side of Massachusetts, there's a lot more for you to kind of get into. So again, like the branding piece, lemons everywhere. I think there's like a delightfully kitschy type of aesthetic that we can be kind of leveraging here. Like, I think corny is good in Lemon Grove, essentially. And the more we can focus on like the small town charm that we do have, and like that's something to kind of build on. I think we have something there. And also the extent to which we can decentralize some of the planning and the work. It's my understanding that the festival stopped in like the early 2000s or late 90s. Depending on who you talk to, some people will say there was a gang war that broke out at the old time days parade. I don't believe that there was a gang war, but there were some young people who were in gangs who got in a fight, and I think there may have been a pistol. Nobody got shot, but it went off. This is California, like stuff happens. You have to figure out ways to move past it. But like that stopped everything, and there really hasn't been anything community-wide in probably about 20 years, other than movies in the park, concerts in the park type of stuff, which is good. But also again,
deals with that every year in October. Every year La Mesa deals with this in October. Every year, same thing, exactly what you're just talking about. It's always a problem at the trolley stations, and every year they find a way to move around it, keep going, change the nature of the event, daytime more family friendly. So I love everything you just said is true. Like we let one event stop this city from celebrating itself. There's a great fictional town, Pawnee, Indiana, right, that celebrates its hookiness and its silliness. Why don't we have that?
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. You know what I mean, though? Like, I think everything you're saying is exact, because we are that kind of small community that can do that kind of thing, and I think capitalize on it in a major way. That's all.
Yeah, we need a Leslie Knope, man. That's what we need to bring this whole thing together. Or a little Sebastian festival.
Can we call you Leslie Knope? Is that okay?
I'd rather be Little Sebastian, but whatever it takes to get the victory, man. I'm a team player.
Right.
I'm sorry, Alicia. Where were we before we started talking about Parks and Recreation?
Oh, I know. All right. Okay, so this is what I think we all keep coming back to, right? Is what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with this space? So, like Kamaal said, there's just so much space here. And, we have these beautiful like strips where it's already divided. There's already lighting that separates like the business fronts, and then separating the street. Like, why do we really need that parking right there? Like, can we just at least remove some of the spaces and put the parking in the back? I think there's a whole parking structure in the back, and pop out the rest. Get these restaurants to put their businesses outside, or put put the sidewalk on the other side, do some landscaping. I think this, going back to that slide deck that I showed you in Kirkland, Washington, like these on both sides, we just have an abundance of space that's being underutilized. So I don't know what you guys are thinking, but those are my first thoughts. And as you can see, there's no canopies, like tree canopies, like there's palm trees and some smaller trees, but lots of potential here.
I wanted to pick on somebody, and I think this is a perfect slide. If you could leave that right there. Mm-hmm. She's someone who, like I said, has been working in this space for a while, who I just met really recently, but has actually been working with Project New Village to design and support some of the build out that we're going to be doing at our community garden next week, Friday and Saturday. So it's kind of funny. She's, I don't want to say she's stressing out. That's not correct. I'm not going to put words or feelings and emotions in her space, but she's focused on the work that she needs to do on the 5th and the 6th. And I'm looking forward to the work that she's going to be doing on the 5th and the 6th as like, finally I can like relax and the election is over and the marathon is done. Casey, if you're here, if you could just kind of share a little bit about your background, your exposure to Lemon Grove, and some of the things that we're talking about now, specifically like this downtown area that you got a chance to see pretty recently. And from a practitioner standpoint, what are some of the key strategies that we should be employing, could be employing to start to bring this thing to life?
Yeah, I would have unmuted earlier because there was a few things I wanted to say, but I didn't know how this worked. So I was being polite. Well, my background's in landscape architecture, and I've worked a lot on like the placemaking, placekeeping projects. And, it's funny, not funny, but we've been pushing for a lot of these initiatives in San Diego for the past decade, and it's been an uphill battle just to get things like intersection murals, which actually still I think is on the table, but painting in between the lines of a crosswalk, getting parklets, which now we're seeing that really expedited. And to what Rickle, I remember the last name Rickle, Brian was saying about Chicago. You go to Chicago that has a winter, and they utilize their public open space, which are parking lots, sidewalks, parking spaces, so much better. And we have this amazing climate. And so I guess a couple of things I'm seeing is like the iron's hot, it's like time to strike. The city is now seeing the need for enlivening its outdoor space, given like the amazing climate and all the, and sorry, when I say city, I'm always thinking of San Diego. So bear with me, I'm coming back into Lemon Grove. But this region, I'll say, is starting to see that opportunity and starting to make it easier and starting to see the benefits of it. I think there was always this hesitation of a benefit or maybe taking away the money from, I don't know, parking meters or something. So I think the iron's hot while everyone is now expanding on these parklets or extending the outdoor eating spaces into parking spaces. They now see like people are willing to walk a little bit more. The other thing I was thinking about was I was looking at this plan that was done in 2016, and what you were saying, Alicia, of all the ideas that you had, it just seems like almost doing an overlay of all the work that's already been done, because it looks like there's been a lot of community engagement and really prioritizing like what would be the top things that you'd like to see envisioned. And you had quite a big list there, and it's like, could that be done through a Lemon Grove Festival? And I can imagine, seeing the Lemon Grove Festival activating that 99-cent store with a dance troupe in there, activating parking lots or behind a lot of the places that we saw, Kamaal, with you know, concerts and music, dance, theater, art shows, live painting, like all of these things. I love the reference to like punk bands and having the kids activate the spaces, but doing a quick temporary, you know, bootstrap thing and having people get excited about something and then incorporating an engagement layer to it and really having opportunities for people to put their ideas down. And so just posing simple questions of like, what would you like to see happen on this corner? Or what do you imagine this street or this park being, or this storefront being, or whatever? Like, you know, I could imagine there being multiple opportunities to engage people, and they write on a post-it, or they write on a chalkboard, or they put it in a suggestion box. But having that added layer while they're seeing something really happen and they're excited, the adrenaline's up, and kind of striking while the iron's hot with that too. Of course, all of this is not considering the long term of what it takes to actually get implemented, but I think when you garner that support, it might make it easier to find those resources. So I don't know if I answered your questions really. My mind was like picking up on a lot of things that you were talking about, and I really got excited about that Lemon Grove Festival because I think it could be done quickly. You know, paint's always temporary. You could paint sidewalks, you could paint in front of storefronts, those sidewalks, those parking spots, you know, all of that stuff. If you think on the temporary front, just try it out. Ask for forgiveness later. And then if you're mayor, then we don't have to be forgiven.
Right up my alley. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered anything there, but I love the vision and I think it's doable. It's just kind of like there's so much there, and it's almost laying like a temporary strategic plan down. Like, where are the hot nodes and how can, you know, and really just like a project, like pricing it out and getting the partnerships. That's the other thing I heard that I think is crucial, is power in numbers and really working with each other in your partnerships and to allocate resources that way. And asking the community to get involved early on. Who has an extra stack of lumber that they could donate, or is really good at carpentry or painting, or, you know, the transparency of showing people how they can be involved will be surprising as to how many people would really do get involved. But making it easy for them to get involved is a big thing.
You know, Kamaal just brought thing in the chat to me that is something that's very dear to my heart too, and that's theater spaces. We live in one of the greatest theater cities in America. We have two of the largest regional theaters in the entire United States in one region of this city, in La Jolla and the Globe. We have some of the best collegiate theater programs in America in this city, between UCSD and SDSU and USD, plus our community colleges where Tim music. And I teach at Grossmont College. We've got all these musicians. We've got this 99-cent store that's been sitting there empty since I moved to La Mesa, like a decade ago. I haven't seen anything in that space, I don't think. I'm freezing. Sorry. Am I frozen? Nope. Okay, back. Great. And I go to Sprouts frequently, and I sit there and I'm like, I could build that space out, but, you know, even though I don't have the money to call that landlord and say, hey, donate your space to me. But I do know at least 10 theater companies and a couple of musicians and organizations and a dance company say, let's all put our heads together and share that space, build it out in a tour, like the White Space down in what they're doing down at, help me, the old Army Barracks down in San Diego, in Point Loma. What is that space?
Liberty Station?
Liberty Station. There's no reason we could not have an art-centered space like that, which is gallery, performance space, music, theater, and dance, in that gigantic, I mean, there's a lot of space in there. I could, you know what I mean? You brought up, like, what are your carpentry skills? I mean, I'm building a shed in my back. There are a lot of people in this city. There's a guy down the street who has a front yard full of lumber. I asked him what he does with it. He goes, nothing, I collect it for people. You know, and I think about that, and these are just some of my walks in the neighborhood. And if those, I know this is kind of that otherworldly, like, oh, it'd be nice, hippy dippy shit, but like, what happens when all the crazy hippies in town get together and like build things, you know? we get magic that happens. These are the anchored spaces. So I really appreciated everything you just had to say. And you're right, Chicago, man, it could be the dead of December, and there will be an outdoor festival somewhere with heat lamps everywhere, with families everywhere. And it's like 20 degrees outside. So if they can do it, this city that purportedly has the best climate on earth, or at least in America, can do that, you know, and things I wish for my family and my son and my community, and hopefully our new mayor on Tuesday. That would be lovely. But I really appreciate everything you just had to say.
There's a ton of capacity out here, and like just on the call right now, there are a number of artists, architects, engineers, project managers, like people who've literally done already and get paid to do the things that we're talking about accomplishing. So it's not far-fetched. And for those of you who are familiar with Transcendence, which is a youth, theater group, they've just made their forever home in Lemon Grove in the Citronica development, and they're building out that space. And they signed a long lease. They're going to be here for like at least probably a decade. There are a lot of pieces that are already kind of in place, and we just need to do a better job of kind of connecting the dots, but also making sure that we have leaders who are willing to work with us, and that really vital component of partnership. But also, no matter who your leaders are or aren't, the extent to which that we as community members are able to continue to work together, collaborate, and kind of push things forward, and propel and move an agenda.
I like Casey. Is it Casey or Cassie? Casey? Yeah.
Casey, yeah.
Casey?
Thank you.
No, I really like what you are saying about getting the community to speak out and to start participating by putting those suggestion boxes and having a wall where people can write what they want, because I think that's key, is figuring out how to get the input from the community and start getting them motivated to participate and utilizing the resources that everyone can bring to the table. So that's definitely doable, and I think what will make our community. So I know this Main Street here, I know Kamaal talks about the Main Street, what is it? The redevelopment
Connect
plan?
Main Street.
Yes, and so, hopefully that money will fall from the sky, and, this whole thing will get built out, because that will be a great addition to Lemon Grove. I don't know if you want to speak on what the potential vision of is that. I don't know if everyone knows, but that would be a key area in Lemon Grove.
Yeah, essentially, it's a plan to create a linear park that would run from Broadway and Main Street all the way down to the Massachusetts Avenue trolley stop, using already existing city-owned property. So all of the right-of-ways are, there, and it's pretty easy. There's some Union Pacific Railroad property in there, and, there's work to be done. But essentially, it's about a $12 million project. And the city has been able to find about 4 or 5 million. And out of that 4 or 5 that they found, they were just given almost half of that by Sandag about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. There's been very little that's been done to pursue foundation money or other, conservation components. And one of the things that I know Eric and Seth have talked about, both being, engineers and architects, on the environmental side, to get this work done, there's a significant watershed component, because Choyas Creek is right there with the outlets. So there would almost have to be some environmental conservation, mitigation, and remediation that becomes a big part of it. That's where money starts to fall out of the sky, right? The extent to which you can pull these seemingly disconnected elements together. I would be shocked if we weren't able to get this done with the right people at the table. And it's simply just, having a different lens and frame. And for everybody who lives either along Main, Olive, Buena Vista, a few of those streets, you know, in kind of that immediate radius. I mean, can you imagine what it would be like having a park that stretched that area? I mean, while there's still going to be street access and things like that, a lot of the slides that you showed us earlier involve kind of like little corner build outs to create, you know, different areas. And the way the initial kind of public visioning process laid it out, they had a couple of options, but they decided on moving forward with a like lemon grove throughout time type of theme in terms of the design features. So it starts off at the Promenade Park with like lemon grove of today and tomorrow. Then it moves into like the pioneer period. Then there's a Kumeyaay period. And then it starts to move into like geological time for like the larger sections. So like, again, there's a lot of work that's already been done. And it's really just a matter of having the bandwidth and the desire to look outside of the community for the resources. And one of the things that I've, you know, gone back and forth with a few of the other candidates, some of them are of the opinion that we should just leave Sacramento and Washington, D.C. alone and like not bother them so they don't mess with us. It's like, no, those are the people we need to go get in their pockets and find their money. So like, that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to bringing to the table in serving these efforts is like, okay, I don't need to come up with the idea. My job is to support the idea, to prop it up, and to find the money. Like, so let's go do it.
I was just thinking, like, while I was sitting here listening to you talk, this would be a prime area that wouldn't interfere with the businesses that are on the other side on, you know, Broadway, because this whole space is completely like underutilized. It's like a dead zone. So why not like shut this street down when you're mayor? Like Casey was saying, paint, right? That beautifies automatically, and put some outdoor seating right here and have even just like a lunch truck or like a temporary coffee shop our first like outdoor coffee shop. Like it could be so simple, and it could be like the first space that could be activated, because as we know, unfortunately, like the Lemon Grove Bakery went out of business. Maybe, who knows, maybe someone will come in there and we can utilize that outdoor space. But this street is so underutilized right now. And I think it would be a perfect area as a first like pilot to try and do something, you know, for the community. So.
No, you're totally right. And it's Main Street, right? Like Main Street is supposed to be where stuff is happening and the street that's popping, but our Main Street is like the wackest Main Street that you could think of.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be like that. So
yeah.
You're spot on.
Is that how mayors talk?
In Lemon Grove it is.
Lemon Grove mayors, right?
It's a Latin term, by the way.
I'm just kidding.
We can't even get the two sides of Broadway to agree on parking and how their buildings look, because one is not owned by the city and one kind of like, that blows my mind. Like, we can't even get agreement there with business owners. You know, somebody's got to get all those people to the table, you know.
That definitely would be a longer term project in my mind, but something that like we should start the conversation of now and begin to look at what it would take to acquire those parcels and then just kind of bank them for the future development and expansion of that south side of Broadway and like redoing Golden Avenue. And again, specifically with that being like the front door to Lemon Grove in so many respects. And then with the school right there, like there's just so much underutilized space. Just think about the parties we could be having on the backside of Golden in those massive parking lots where everything is right now. And like, we could do something that's reasonably COVID compliant, right? Or as close to COVID compliant as we could get, something where you wouldn't want to get it shut down or set yourself up to fail. But a public space that people could feel good about coming to. It's actually paved, or maybe it's unpaved and it's permeable. Maybe like we go the other direction and start to think about, you know, replenishing and recharging aquifers and groundwater sources. I don't know, but I think all these options are on the table. We literally have some of the worst roads in San Diego County. And if we don't have the resources right now to think about how to pave over the stuff that's already fallen into the greatest degree of disrepair, then we should also be thinking about kind of how do we potentially go low tech and like work the other direction.
One of the things that came to mind was like this linear park concept, and then this, cafe at that slide that you were showing, Alicia, is like, what if you mocked up a couple blocks of a linear park with paint and temporary bollards, a bulb out, whatever, and have these destination areas along the way to start implementing the bigger concept. And then you can have like some wayfinding signage that is like, oh, a 2-minute walk to the next cafe, and have the arrow pointing or whatever these nodes are. And then maybe there's like overlies a drain or something like that begins to talk about the creek or the watershed. I don't know. There was something I saw that I thought was really cool, was just like a spray painted circle in a really tree deficit area. And it was like, imagine a tree here. And I was like, yeah, no shit. Like, imagine how amazing, like a tree would be really nice here. Thought that was pretty cool to provoke.
Yeah, we just go around the city and start painting. This is where we would want all of these things to happen.
Orange marking construction paint.
It's like, what is it, Sims? We're like designing our own city, but
Right. Oh man.
Let's see here. So again, this is just running through again, like some key locations in Lemon Grove where we can transform that underutilized space. Again, just areas for seating, areas for art, play space. I always tell Kamaal, like, our most happening spot in Lemon Grove is the skate park. And it's literally like the smallest piece of land, but that's where all the kids are. And it's just sad because right across the street is this huge mass of land that nobody can kick a soccer ball. Nobody can play catch. It's just sad. Again, the garden space, lots of the bollards could be like big, huge planters with actually plants in them. And then performance spaces is so important. And then like the town center space. And then I just pulled up. Let's see if this works. I kind of just highlighted some of these areas, which are some key focus spots here. This isn't all this. These aren't all the spaces. This is just kind of highlighting here. So, but like, where can we put these? Where can we put, like, off the freeways? Like, why don't we have lemon trees there? Why aren't we creating these spaces? This is the park. Let's see if I can zoom in here. This is what Kamaal was talking about here. So this whole area, like, it's called School Lane. Why not like make it like a friendly kid zone and like make it colorful, make it safe, make this area like known, to be like, this is where kids hang out. So, this is the area you want to go to. And then as you can just see what Kamaal was talking about, like, if you just look down, like, look how much parking is available. It's
crazy.
It's crazy. So when you really start to look, from the satellite perspective, it's pretty interesting here. I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Any thoughts? If you go this way, more concrete.
So much.
See, we have this whole parking area right here. If we were to, create these parklets and outdoor seating areas and remove that.
I was just going to add, yeah, Alicia, you're really spot on there. And the backside on Golden Avenue across from the Lemon Grove Academy, it looks so sketchy. It's just all chain link fences with really cruddy paved out areas and complete waste of space. So much potential that just doesn't attract anyone. It actually makes you want to stay away. And to think that there's kids that have to walk through that to get to school every day, it's kind of disheartening a little bit. So, You know, it's just so much potential right there that's underutilized for sure.
I agree. And the way that it shows up on a map, like I was walking there the other day with Kamaal, and it's like, why isn't it done more holistically? Like on a map, it looks like one holistic piece that's connected, and, you know, obviously with the overlay of green, right? It should be designed as more of like an ecosystem, you know, where like one thing is working to support the other. And yeah, how can it be inviting for children and families and all these things? But I think the old school of thought of like institutional spaces, parks, whatever, that's out. Like this, we now need to think of like, especially in an area where like our open space is such at a premium, we need to think of stacking function and like how one parcel of land can serve 10 functions, not just one, you know, and how it can support 1 million people or 1,000 people, not 10. And there's way that, yeah, anyway, I could rant a little bit about that, but just the way that the schoolyards and all that open space around them, I think should be more of a community amenity and not just for the school, especially if you start talking about planting lemon trees and start thinking about a healthy local food system and look at that open space, like a farm could be a extremely major educational component that gets built into the curriculum, you know, and like you really learn a lifelong thing there.
Amazing. Lemon Avenue Elementary has an entire gardening program for their students. They have a space on the back of the school. It's not huge. Every single class has their own garden. And if we could do that in a city whose history is agriculture, that's amazing, right? You're talking about all this right now, and I coming down Broadway the other day, I know there is a single real estate agent who's got his name up on like a bunch of buildings down that area. What does it look like to reach out to that guy and say, hey, we want to have a conversation about what your plans are and who you plan to rent to? Because as a former property manager, there's a couple of things that are always on my mind. One is the idea of, well, this person and they're going to be a regular tenant, so let's just get them in here. And the other is, what's good for the space in the community. You know what I mean? And I don't know the relationship between government and property management and realtors, but I mean, we have a lot of empty space, you know, and I noticed his name on like, Ken is his first name, I think. But I was like, who's calling him? Who's reaching out to him to talk about what goes in those spaces, you know? I don't know.
Alicia?
Yeah.
Alicia, can you broaden that picture a little bit? I want to look at the space of the community garden on Main Street.
Yeah, let me see here. It's on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the one right by the park, right?
Right.
Okay, let me.
Just wanted to say it's such a cool little spot, but it's just so small.
Yeah, it's really well maintained. They take really good care of it too.
That's where I'd like to see much more of course.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Gangster Gardener. He's pretty famous in LA, but he, you know, they have we have mass land properties here in Lemon Grove, which nobody probably everyone just doesn't really maintain them. You know, why not rent out these spaces and have gardens and then what they do is they have little refrigerators, or, you know, instead of having to have a farmer's market all the time, they always have food accessible in these little refrigerators and you know, and the corner stores and.
Oh yeah.
But and then, you know, you know, it's interesting what he says is we teach the kids how to sprout a seed, but we don't teach them what to do after the fact. So it's the whole the connection is missing with the kids on learning how to, you know, take the seed, you know, once it's sprouted, plant it, and then nurture it until it, you know, produces food. Let's see, we're almost there. Oh, so the garden is not created yet here, but I think it's right. This is where, right? Yeah. Google needs to get it together. Google Maps, they're behind the times.
I mean, it's just such an awesome little space, and something that every time I drive by it, I'm really proud of it, even though I don't do any of that. I'm not part of it, but it looks really cool, and I'm glad that it's there. And I wish we had more of it.
Yeah.
That's
Her
the kind
videos are awesome. Every time she goes live on Facebook, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go see what she's got going on.
yeah.
Yeah, but even going back down Main Street, as you can see, like, look at all this space that could be used as walkable space. Just like
Right.
you see the tracks, and you can sure see how bad the roads are.
Yeah. And look at all of the parking there.
Well, those sheriff, they need
Yeah.
they need all the parking they can get. Let's see here. Sorry, I can probably move this faster, but I don't want to. So this is a space that I was talking about too, right here. That is really like could be it's already like the space is already there. Like throwing out some tables and chairs, and why not have the world's best lemonade stand here or something? I don't know, but this is just, I feel like, and what Kamaal was talking about is the way, because right now there's a lot of like I think some homeless or transient or it's drug use might go on there. Not 100% sure, but when I drive by, it's kind of a little sketchy. But by activating the space, it kind of eliminates those issues. So so that would be a core area, because it's just right on the opposite side of the main drag here. And then if we were to activate this space here, then it kind of starts tying things together. So and then the rebranding, just like we gotta, like, once we get there, like coming up with like what do we want our community, like what is our logo going to be that's going to go on our trash cans or our seating or whatever, something cool, kind of the colors, where we want our landmarks to be, like our landscape theme, what type of seating we want to have, and how we're going to market this to people.
Yeah, Alicia, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think currently too, the Lemon Grove logo has this building that they're going to actually remove and put in an apartment complexes, from what I understand. It's the athletic store, I think. It's along Gateside and Lemon Broadway. Mm-hmm. It's on Broadway. So that building's going to be gone. So I mean, got to think about rebranding, right? When they get rid of it.
Hopefully they put the parking in the back, or parking will go underground, or parking will go in the back.
Yeah, right.
And there's a storefront, or I don't know. Hopefully.
They said storefront, so I'm hopeful. Yeah, it could be something nice.
Yeah.
So, is that the Fahrenheit building, where Barry's Athletics, that corner there?
Yeah, Seth, that's what I'm thinking of. That's the current logo for the city, right? Isn't that building on the logo?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, so the city has that logo that's painted on the signs when you enter the city from the city of San Diego, particularly along College. It has a sign up, "Welcome to Lemon Grove," and it looks like that building. It appears to be the athletic store building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. In the city's logo, it's got the building with the
lighthouse-looking building.
Yeah, I want to call it a steeple, but it's not exactly a steeple. It's either that or the nail salon on the other end.
Oh.
They both have that same feature.
I didn't realize that. Okay. So yeah, I figured if that was it, the logo definitely has to change. So.
Yep. Time for change.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to limit our conversation, but we are kind of running up towards our time. I just want to be mindful of that. But if we want to keep going, we can. Alicia's got to do it, looks like.
I'm pretty much done. I mean, this is the last, this was it. It was just, if, people want to learn more about what a community benefit district is, because that's what will help, there's a whole nother conversation, but, just to start researching what that is, because if we are ever able to vote on this, coming in our next, their next opportunity to pass this through so that we can start doing some of these things, I would suggest start doing a little bit of research. But that was it. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll turn it over to Kamaal, and hopefully we can start making change once Kamaal is mayor, right?
That's the plan.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for taking some time to, not just put this material together, but to help kind of guide and facilitate and lead the conversation. I really appreciate it. I think a big part of my vision for Lemon Grove is, decentralizing power to the extent possible, and, building community-based power and bringing people into the process to get people engaged, to make sure people feel like and know that they have skin in the game, so that people know that they have more than simply someone to complain to, but that they can leverage their own expertise and interests for all of our benefit. So, thank you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all of you and just being willing to, continue to attend every other week. Brian, it's been a huge, huge help having you, kind of run the back of the house with these from the very beginning. I couldn't have done it without you. It's a team effort. We're almost at the finish line. I'm feeling really good about the way things are going. Just going to continue these last couple of days, getting out there, pounding the pavement, talking to folks. I ask that you all please, share the links and stuff when they go up, so that other people who weren't able to join us today can watch and listen on their own. And, hopefully we can continue to find as many people who are thinking the same way that we are, and, build a movement here in Lemon Grove to turn this place around. That's all I have. I appreciate you all very much. Anybody have anything else that they want to add for the good of the order?
I just want to say real quick, I am a very politically minded person and have been my entire life. And in my 45 years, have I ever been involved in anything ever. And when I met Kamaal, I knew that he was the person I wanted to lead this city. And it has been really, really, really a pleasure getting to know you and working with you. And I really hope we get to keep this momentum going. I'm taken by your thoughtfulness and your kindness and vision for this city that we chose to buy our home in. And I'm also grateful for the people I've met in these things. So I'm really, really looking forward to Tuesday. I hope it goes the way we want it to. And if for some reason it doesn't, I really hope that whoever it does go to listens to the people that are on this call, have been talking with you about what this city needs to be, and not just silo themselves off. But I'm grateful for you. So thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Appreciate you, my man. I'm giving you an energy hug through cyberspace right now. Love.
Good night, everybody. It's been lovely.
Appreciate you all, man. Have a good night. Be safe out there.
Good night,
for little
guys.
kids
Thank
doing
you.
Halloween trick-or-treating and all that other good stuff. See you all soon. Thanks again.
Bye.
Night.
Night.